Are you ready for the new year yet? It is Thursday, December 28th, and today we get to talk with, I think, some of the smartest people that I know when it comes to economics, forecasting, and just general knowledge.
Just silly smart people. I mean,
Great way to put it. I'm silly. Well, I just can't. All I can hear is Ben Affleck in Good Will Hunting, like, my friend's wicked smart. He points them back.
Wicked smart.
My friend's wicked smart.
Yeah.
No, these three would easily, if you're in Boston, these people would be considered wicked smart.
Wicked smart. Yeah.
Easy.
Exactly.
So we have the segment from the Year End Extravaganza. If you haven't seen it, head over to our YouTube channel, ASOTU.be, ASOTube, and you'll get to see the whole program. This is a segment from there where we talk to economics and forecasting and using data to make sound decisions with Cox Automotive's former chief economist, Jonathan Smoke, and now he's senior vice president of world domination, Dr. Alex Yurchenko, with Black Book, and the one and only David Spisak, who may be the most interesting man in the world.
Could be the most interesting man in the world. Yeah, I loved this session. Can't wait to let you hear it. Check it out, and we'll see you in a second.
Please welcome David Spisak, Jonathan Smoke, and Dr. Alex Yurchenko. We're going to get right into it. Jonathan, I think the most important thing to talk about is your promotion. Congratulations, first and foremost. And secondly, can you tell us what the new role entails?
Well, for the industry, there should be no fear. I still oversee the team that we've created. It's now been almost 7 years. And I'll still be focused on auto. The main change is that my scope has expanded to oversee similar kind of activity in other parts of Cox businesses. So I'll be trying to replicate what we've done in automotive and other places while still keeping automotive, good and strong.
So who's filling your seat now that you're taking on another one?
Well, through the years, I've been building up a really strong team. So there's some names that shouldn't be new to folks. Mark Strand has been on the dealer association circuit for a long time and did some stints at IHS and NADA. So he's very dealer retail focused. Jeremy Robb is somebody that came from our Mannheim Consulting a year ago onto my team and is very directly connected to our Mannheim business. And so the two of them will be doing a lot more, but I'll still be around.
Very nice.
All right, so let's get into it. Looking back, Jonathan, we'll start with you since you've been chatting already. Looking back over the past year, are there any predictions that you made about the economic outlook or the business in general in auto that maybe you were thinking, missed on that one? I know that your report, your grading yourself hasn't come out yet, but is there anything that maybe didn't strike home the way you felt it was going to?
Well, first of all, I have to defend the profession. We never have regrets because we're always working with the best that we've got at the moment. And by the way, economics is the only profession you can be wrong most of the time and still win a Nobel Prize. I'll
good choice.
But I would say the thing that I think I got most wrong, and my team, got most wrong for this year, and it's to the detriment, I think, of the industry in terms of where we are now going into 24, is that new vehicle sales really grew much more rapidly. Last year, at this time, there was all this chatter about newfound discipline by manufacturers that would forever keep inventories lean. And I think we've settled that story. And incentives.
Human nature wins in the end.
So, and we weren't big believers over the longer term that could be true, but we thought that there would be some lingering supply chain issues and there would be some conservatism at display in 23, but that's all out the window. And we clearly are trending towards something that looks a lot like 2019 and before, rather than how we thought things might be a year ago.
Alex, you, as a part of Black Book, are tracking millions of data points monthly and really looking at the balance between both new car inventories as well as used car valuations. How have you seen this change in the new car landscape impact the models on what's happening in the used car space?
I think similar to Jonathan, we were surprised that inventory grew that fast to these levels. We were expecting some more gradual growth, more discipline, and with that, we were expecting a little bit slower growth in new sales. With all of the increases in interest rate, with all of the headwinds, new retail sales and just grew at a healthy rate. And on the used side, I think what surprised me is that retail used prices were not declining as fast as wholesale prices. Dealers were able to keep those prices higher than we expected. Bad for consumers, I guess. Better for dealers. But the affordability question will roll into 2024. Used cars are too expensive for a lot of consumers.
So David, you're somebody who spends a lot of time with dealers who are fighting it out on the front line every day and kind of looking at things from an overarching strategy perspective across all departments of the dealership. So you obviously rely on the data and insights produced by Jonathan and Alex on a regular basis. What is your perspective on how those are getting their way to the frontline decision-making right now?
It's a great question, Paul. And I was sharing with both of these gentlemen, I really do rely on their data each and every month. I look at the weekly insights with Black Book religiously, looking for trends there. I rely on what Jonathan and his team puts out each and every month. I'm actually surprised. I am and I'm not. There's two things I've said about retail automotive. You could learn, you can go to classes, guys, for a lot of things, and you could, learn how to do F&I more effectively, fixed ops, the nuances of a financial statement. But we should all take note that there's never been any classes that will help people in retail automotive lift their self-esteem. It's not needed. There's two things you could find in retail automotive in a big way. One is self-esteem, which just means that confidence, that bravado, and it's really helpful because when we did go through these tough times, where ASOTU really launched from, where you originally created the brilliant concept of let's all come together and unify during the pandemic. It was just proven to us, as it always has been, that retail automotive dealers are incredibly resilient. The other thing that you'll find in droves is irrational optimism. And so even though there is extraordinary data that's available by the team at Black Book and by Jonathan and his team, there's so much irrational optimism. It's almost as if at dealerships you could look up and say the sky is blue and they'll tell you it's black. They see what they want to see. And the reality is that I've been saying all year that used cars are about as predictable as cryptocurrency. You need to exercise a much higher level of discipline and process if you're going to win. And I've been showing, as I've shared with Jonathan, I literally share with dealers every single month because I know they're not going out and really looking at it, is economic data. And what I keep saying, guys, is that nobody should ever feel bad about being or embarrassed about being surprised by an earthquake, right? I mean, think about it. Jonathan, you're talking about the fact economists can be wrong most of the time and still win a Nobel Prize. Seismologists study every single day, every hour, and they have no idea when something's going to hit, where it's going to hit, how big it's going to be. They have no idea. You might as well be playing some kind of seismologist version of Pin the Tail on the Donkey on a map, right? But you should never be surprised by a hurricane. We could see a hurricane forming 2 and 3 weeks out, for God's sakes.
Right.
So what we're starting to experience, depending on brands, and if you go to one end of the spectrum, you've got Stellantis, most notably Dodge, which most dealers are drowning in Chargers and Challengers without the support that they probably should have on it or need to have on it. At the other end, you've got Toyota, Lexus, Honda. Surprisingly, Kia has exercised a pretty fair amount of discipline. And interestingly enough, their level of discipline is different than Hyundai's level of discipline. Right. But you've got those big five. You've got Toyota, Kia, Honda, Lexus, and Subaru. And if you look at it, and I broke down Jonathan's data, and if you look at both the multiples as well as what we're seeing year over year in profitability, they're either flat, up somewhat, or down a little bit. When you start to move towards the other quartiles in inventory, you'll see that line starts going more and more progressively down. And by the time you get to that fourth quartile, that's over 90 days, it is in, some of them are an absolutely free fall. And so it's extraordinary, I think, what we're seeing at the retail level. And I believe in 2024, we're going to need a significantly more discipline, specifically in used cars and new car asset management, for dealers to be able to be as profitable as they can be and should be.
So I think we figured out, Jonathan, when you walked into your master's in economics classes, they wrote the words irrational optimism on the board, and then they just drew a big X through it, and they said, you're never allowed to do this way, right? And dealers are the opposite. So, I've always liked, Jonathan always brings a sense, I would say, of rational optimism to the industry. All right, we just have a minute left. We'd like to give each of you the opportunity to give us one prediction, like a 15-second prediction for 2023. David, we'll start with you, and then we'll go to Alex, and we'll end with Jonathan. I'm sorry, 2024. Did I say 23?
24.
Yeah, we'll go 24 this time around.
It's nothing like making a bold prediction for 2023 at the end of the year. Listen, I'm going to cheat. I'm going to say two things. Number one, EVs are going to come to a tipping point as it pertains to the business model for dealerships. And the second thing is I fully expect OEMs to finally come around and feel the pressure to bring more OEM incentives, more compelling consumer offerings, and more compelling OEM to dealership offerings. They've been very slow to come back to the table, even though they've been very fast to lose their discipline on inventory production.
Okay, Alex, 2024, what's one prediction?
Used prices going to continue to drop, but they're still going to be elevated by any historical level.
Jonathan, you get the final word. What's going to happen in 2024?
Well, we're not going to have a recession, but the economy and the industry are in for a very weak growth year. And that means another year of declining profits for dealers. So when I see you all at NADA, one of the songs I'll be playing for the year is CNC Music Factory's Gonna Make You Sweat. Everybody.
He came Jonathan in with DJ Smokey Smoke. There it is.
As long as you don't break down and start dancing to CNC.
Oh, I hope so.
I might be dancing.
Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. We can't wait to see what happens in 2024 and to watch how you all encourage us through the year.
I love the idea of irrational optimism, because that in a phrase explains auto dealers in this industry across the board. Even though right now there's like a little pessimism going on, right? A little.
Well, no, it's always like, you get between the buddies in the car business and you're like, it's gonna be rough. And then like, for some reason, there's like this switch that flips and you get to the showroom and it's like,
we're still 300. Right. But the levity between that, like Jonathan Smoke, always someone who I think brings a very rational optimism to his economic reports and his approach to economics and automotive in general. Then you have Black Book data showing the indices, and then you have David Spisak on the front lines, and you realize like we actually have a lot of reason to be optimistic.
We do, yeah. All of them said, hey, look, it might be a little bit tougher. You might have to work a little harder, but there's some optimism around the corner. Mm-hmm. We're seeing stuff with interest rates potentially be pulled back. I saw some stuff last week where there's manufacturers offering 0% again, which is nuts.
Mm-hmm. Tax season is supposed to be great too.
Tax season is
average tax return is going to be high.
Used car prices are coming into a more affordability, a more affordable spot as far as price range. So the optimism is up. We're a little bit irrational in the car business, but isn't that what makes us resilient?
That's what makes us a family. Everyone loves an irrational optimist. At least we do in this industry. Hey, we hope you're having an amazing Thursday. Only a few days left in 2023, so make them count.
Coming too close.